Alright, so back to KSP and the continuing saga of the SSTO. Alright, so I actually need to go here. Load. I need... So, the problem last time was those fuel lines, so we got rid of those. Otherwise, everything else seemed being the operative word here, seemed to work nicely. Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm wondering if maybe, you know what? See, because I'm concerned this thing's not going to have enough fuel, right? No. Ah, there we go. So I'm a little bit worried that it's not going to have enough fuel. So I'm thinking... Oh, man, I really... If I add that onto the back... That is really going to mess... See, the problem is this wreaks havoc with my... Come on. It's my center of gravity. However, could also... See, I'm actually, to tell you the truth, I'm really trying not to... Alright, well, you know what? Hang on. We'll do like this. We'll reload this thing. Okay? And I'll reload it because we'll go ahead and try it out in this formation. My only concern is these RCS ports. Because I think being this far up, so if you notice... They are actually slightly ahead of the center of mass, which is not a good thing. So, I'm thinking I might have a bit of an issue there. But we won't know that until we get into space. So, now hopefully the ones at the back should be sufficient enough, but... Because those are just going to be primarily for the up and down motion. Alright, so X... Activate engine. Switch the other two. Power up. Pull back on the stick. Now, this actually is not a very good design because, of course, I'm not angled upward. I really should have the nose pointed upward. But, unfortunately, I don't have sufficient landing gear to do that. Because they actually make... There's actually landing gears like these that are shorter. Because like I say, look, that's without any assistance whatsoever. This thing is actually very stable. So I think it would get off the ground. I just need to readjust the landing gear. So go ahead and turn on the stability control. Point this thing at 90 degrees. Doesn't need to be fuel efficient. Just needs to get into space. And there it is. The moon rise. Wow. Yes, that's right. I was about to say Mune. I have no idea what a Mune is, but if any game would have one, it is KSP. So the fuel is draining out nicely. So it is actually coming out of... No. Yeah, it's coming out of this tank. Which is... both good and bad, actually. Because at least that way it's coming out of this tank, but I really want the fuel to be balanced. I don't know why it's coming out of this tank. It's strange. I mean, you would think it would want to come out of this tank. But that's okay. Like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect right now. This is just a test run. I'm not really liking this design either. You know, I could move those slightly forward quite a bit, couldn't I? The things I don't know. So what I want to do is I want to get this thing... I want to get my air intakes down to like... Oh, probably 0.1. Oh, so I think I can go as low as 0.5 before this thing flames out on me, so... So we're currently sitting at 14. There's 15. Good. Of course, my engines are starting to lose power now because they're running rich. I'm actually thinking I might try and use the jet engines as much as possible, because they are still working at 18,000. So if I can get up to 20,000 feet and then just like speed up, there it goes. I mean, almost 20,000 feet. Now I should, in theory, be able to transfer fuel from these into this tank, so that shouldn't be a problem. The problem I am going to have, though, is that oxidizer is running out quick, and I'm only at 30,000 meters. But what's important is whether or not I can get... I mean, don't get me wrong, my Apple Watch is climbing. But if I can get to the station, then I can refuel this thing, and it won't really matter how much fuel it has left. The problem is, of course, the station is 139,000 meters up right now. And I'm down to 200 units of fuel. Oxidizer, anyway. I think we might just go ahead. I really don't want to do it, but those engines are going to run about the same either way, so... 100. And if I can get up to 100,000 meters... 64.8 units of fuel left. Yeah, no. The problem is... Okay, so here's where things are going to get tricky, right? So I have about 44 seconds in the first stage of Delta V. You're like, 44 seconds, that's actually a pretty decent amount of time. Unfortunately, in order to get an orbit, I'm going to need 34. And actually, that's not even a good orbit. So that's 100, that's... I need 783. I said 7,000, sorry. And I've got 44 meters per second of Delta V left. 44. And I need 700. So, I'm pretty sure you can do the math there. Alright. So once again, we still don't get into orbit. So that's got to be our primary goal right now, is just getting this thing into orbit, which of course means more fuel, better ratios. See, I'm thinking, so what I'll do is I'll take it back. I don't get me wrong, I'm going to try this burn. I really want to try and see what happens. But, 10. Oh, this is gonna be awful. This is gonna be terrible. I'm not lying. This is gonna be terrible. 44. Oh, this is gonna be so bad. So yeah, we're gonna take it back, and what I'm gonna try to do is I'll disconnect these lines here, so that way the rocket engine has its own fuel, own liquid fuel and oxidizer, and then I'll just let the jet engines run off these, because these tanks are probably not going to go empty, and they should drain evenly. And that's it. Dead in the water. So, okay. Now, see, I can use the RCS. The only problem is the RCS is going to require a whole lot. Now, what I want to know is how well this thing turns on the RCS. It actually turns fairly well, but I think that's because the front end is doing the bulk of the work. It's not too bad. I mean, I don't really like the positioning of them, but Alright. So, we're going back for we're coming back in for re-entry. Okay. So, we're going to cut that off. Right, if you're wondering why, is because I'm actually going to turn those jet engines back on, but I don't want them to turn on right now. Because A, I have no atmosphere in which to turn them back on in, and B, well, primarily I look at that, nothing. Right, I need air in order for these things to work, otherwise they're just going to flame out on me. And believe me, when this thing flips out of control, as you probably saw in the last video, it does really like to flip out of control. So, the small engine is not powerful enough. This engine is powerful enough, but uses too much fuel. And I think that's the small one, isn't it? Yeah, I think that is the small one, because the big one doesn't have the gimbal. Well, I'm not really worried about the electrical charge or anything like that, because A, I have the solar panels, and B, once I fire up those jet engines, they will start producing electricity. So, but I do have 300 units of fuel, although this says they're almost empty. So yeah, I need to move these wings forward some more, and that'll improve my... Actually, because if I move those forward, I should be able to move those forward a little bit too, which might be nice. So we'll shut that off. So that way it's not just needlessly draining our RCS, although that said, meh. And watch as this thing smacks into the atmosphere. And hold on, wait for it. We're slowing. It's at, come on, will it hit 18? 1,800 meters per second. Well, 16 via the surface, and now she's slowing down. This is going to... Well, it would suck if this thing wasn't a plane. Unfortunately, it is a plane, and therefore, it wants to do this. But I'm not worried about this. I've got plenty of time to fix this. And if you're wondering why it's doing that, it's because there's no weight in the middle of this thing. It's all on the outer edges. That's why it likes to flip out of control like this. But we have air intakes now, so fire up the engines. Try and get this thing pointed nose down. Trying to fight that roll. Technically, this thing is still going too fast. All right, come on. No. Point down. Shut that off. Down. See, this is why you have to have Bill flying the planes. Because if it doesn't have a rocket engine on it, and if it has wings, Jebediah is most likely going to crash it. Alright. So hopefully this will help. See, because the weight is not in the right spot. I got 11 seconds to fix this little problem. And crash and burn. See, I really need to get that escape system installed. See, Jeff, this is why you're not allowed to fly planes. Okay, so I left that in there because I know you guys wanted to see that. That's what happens. These things, like, just go madly, insanely out of control. So I can do this. So if I move that forward, right? Because see, the thing is, I actually want the center of mass ahead of that. But what I can do is oops. So we'll slide that whole assembly forward tiny bit. Slide those wings back. See, and the reason it flipped out like that was because all the weight that was here got shifted over to the sides, which, don't get me wrong, we're still balanced, but it was then behind the center of lift, so it was too far behind the center of lift, I should say. Okay, and then I'll add this. Nope. Oh, you were green a second ago. I know you were. Stop lying. There. Jerk. Okay. See, because then when I move these back, it doesn't move my center of lift nearly as much. I mean, my center of gravity nearly as much, which is nice. So let's see what happens when I empty all of these tanks. See, and this is the problem that I was running into. So that bottom tank is fine, because that'll move all the weight back to the front. This one's going to be a problem. So basically, I'm sitting almost dead spot on when those jet engines are fire up, and I'm out of fuel, which should be okay, because that's kind of where I want it. No. So that. And that. Alright, and then remove those. Scrap that idea, because that's not going to work. Okay, now here comes the other problem. Is this engine going to be big enough to get me into orbit? Because this one uses the least amount of fuel. Oh. I could, in theory, put a whole bunch of these on. Because, I mean, really, realistically, 4 of them. Unfortunately, 4 of them. So that's 3.7 and 4.8. So 3 times 4 is 12, and 4 times 4 is 16. So that means this thing, all 4 of those are going to use way more fuel than this one. Okay. This is most likely going to end very badly for somebody. But this time, it's not going to be Jeb. It's going to be Bill. Why? Because Bill knows how to fly a plane. Don't get me wrong. Ignore this. Right? But that's why we send out Bill. Because he's totally oblivious to the crashes. Alright, so make sure to save the changes to the Mark 1. And begin second test flight. Oh, landing gears, that's right. I know, like, no science is being done. No science has been done in the making of this video, which, you know what, is an excellent title for this video. So, X, activate. Why is that engine not activating? Because the action group is not set up. Oh, action group. Okay. Had to make sure, because sometimes those guys get a little bit... Okay. So basic jet. Toggle engine. Alright. So that should toggle both those engines. So why didn't it toggle both of those engines? It probably didn't because the last time I didn't have the symmetry. So this time, X, activate. There we go. Both engines are now online. Full power. And back into the unknown we go. Now, I will show you something cool here in a second as soon as this thing gets off the runway, which will be at the very end of the runway, by the way. If you haven't figured that out by now. I could potentially move those landing gears off to the side a little bit more. So, gears up. New design really does not like to go nose up, does it? So, okay, so if I go to map, right, see this little eye right there? That tells me all of the necessary information I have. More importantly, it tells me this. The total mass, which is 16 tons, right? So if this works, I know that 16 tons is, in essence, that's 4 moon rises, people. 4 in a row. I mean, that just, yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. You're so welcome. So, yeah, if this works, I'll know that 16 tons is in essence the limit for how much I need, how high I can go for this thing, for the power that I have. If it doesn't work, then it's too heavy. And if it works too well, there's no such thing. So it's taking us a little bit longer, but that's because we're not going nearly as steeply. So let's see what happens when I point at 90 degrees if I accelerate. It's trying to accelerate. I'm not gonna lie, this thing is a little bit more bulky, a little bit harder to move. Just a tiny bit. Just takes a little bit more effort this time around to, you know, get things where I need it. Now, I know the last time I was able to get, I mean, literally right on the cusp of 20,000 meters. So, I want to wait till about 19.5 before I kick over to the rocket engine. And like I said in the last video, all of this is really just so that way the rocket engine doesn't have to have as much fuel. The twisted irony is I have enough fuel to, in essence, yeah, probably get this rocket engine into space. I mean, I could possibly do it with the fuel that I have on board this thing right now, not including these jet engines and the wings and all that. So there we go. There's 14, 15. Ooh. And a galaxy rise. Look at that. Not only a moon rise, but a galaxy rise as well. You're welcome. You're so welcome. Alright, so once we reach 19.5, I'm going to kick over to the rocket engine. And kick. So we are gaining altitude, we're gaining speed, that's nice, that's excellent. Everything is going exactly as it's supposed to. Now, in theory, what should happen here is I should have all of this fuel that would have been in this tank down here in this tank left to get me into orbit and into a position to rendezvous with the refueler. In theory. But of course I did add mass to this thing, so there's a good chance it might do slightly worse than it did before. Because I think this thing weighs like a full ton with the fuel on it. So I, in essence, added a whole ton to this thing. I have to go back and check. But it is going up, which is good. See, I'm thinking I might need to get this thing at a higher speed, but these wings really, really do not like going that fast. So, yeah. So we're about a little over halfway where we want to be, because we want to be at 100,000 meters. Yeah, I mean, I tell you, we're going to be cutting this thing so close. So very, very close. Now, see, the plus side is, once we get to a certain point, we really, really start picking up speed. So in essence, we should save more fuel by having more fuel. I know it sounds kind of weird, but that's just kind of how these things work. 100,000. Okay, so we got 140 units of oxidizer left, which is nice. But is that going to be enough to get us into orbit? See, this is what I was talking about, yeah, no, it's not. Because we've got 486 and we need 966. Now, let's see if I can get that. No. Yeah, there's literally nothing I'm going to be able to do that is going to allow this thing to get into a better position to get into orbit. So adding the extra fuel basically nearly costed me, I mean, don't get me wrong, it should do a little bit better than it did the last time, but about half as good. Or, well, twice as good, I guess you'd say. So, but we'll point our nose at the node. Wait until about, I mean, we are a little bit ahead of, but that's okay. Wait until we're about, what would you say, 24 seconds in. Fire up that rocket engine at maximum thrust. Cross our fingers and go from there. And I totally missed my burn window, but that's okay. My burn window is whenever I say it is. We'll even help it out with the RCS a little bit. See if maybe that doesn't help. Which the RCS really does legitimately help, so I mean, it's not going to be enough. Look at it. 10, 5, 1, dead. Dead in the water. Yeah. And there's nothing these poor little RCS thrusters are going to be able to do to extend that. Time to apoapse is dropping. Time to periapse is dropping. Time to impact is dropping. Alright. Kill power. Switch over to the jets. So, what I want to do now is, now that I know that that's not going to work, man, we are getting a lot of side slip, aren't we? So, knowing that that's not going to work, Is there any way that I can pull out of this dive using Bill and some minor adjustments to the plane, but mostly Bill? Is there any way that I can save this plane from a, let's be honest, frankly catastrophic spin? Inquiring minds don't really care. But you know what? I want to know. And for that reason alone, I'm doing it. Although, I do have a little bit of an idea on what I can do to sort of alter some of this. See, part of my problem too is I'm using a lot of fuel just to get off the runway. But it's okay because it's the jet fuel. So, you know, there's kind of that little catch-22 there of... Actually, you know what? While I'm up this... Oh, you know what? I probably can transfer fuel in here. No. Yeah, I can transfer the fuel in there, but without those fuel lines, that would cause a huge problem. And I'm thinking maybe if I could transfer the fuel back into this tank. Because, I mean, once the rocket engine's out of oxidizer, it'll stop firing in either way. See, but then that puts me back at the original setup, doesn't it? Where I had to have a line running here, and then a line running here, and then drains fuel from this tank, and it doesn't do things the way it's supposed to, which is really stupid. Actually, you know what I think I need to do? Have a line running from this tank to this tank, from this tank to this tank, from this tank to this tank, and then from this tank to this tank. Maybe that'll cause the fuel to run like it's supposed to. Because basically the idea is it's supposed to drain out of this middle section first, while retaining... Actually, it's supposed to drain out of all the sections equally is what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't want to do that. Because it's a stupid jerk. And it likes to be spiteful. So, we've adjusted our center of mass. Right, and what I want to try and do is get this thing moving into the air as much as possible, because I think that was part of the problem as well, was I was coming in flat and obviously losing an impressively large amount of speed in the process. Now, this time, I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to do like before. We're not going to cheat. Wow, we're at 2,000 meters per second. Oh, this is going to hurt. And there's the surface, 18. We're slowing down. I need to be really, really careful not to touch the controls. So we're starting to get some air moving in now. She seems stable. This will actually be a first. A plane that is stable on re-entry. Most of my planes are like horribly unstable on re-entry, but aren't bad at actually flying around. Not bad, not bad. I still don't want to touch the controls because I'm worried something's going to happen. But I really do want to go ahead and start firing up those engines. So you notice my impact time is holding... Okay, no, it's dropping again. Which is fine. So we're still doing... I think that's about Mach 1. Hey, she made it! It lives! Throttle up. And pick our altitude back up to about 10,000 meters. Why do I keep wanting to say feet? I know why I want to keep saying feet. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you always take Bill. When it comes to rockets, take Jeb. When it comes to planes, take Bill. You can't go wrong. So we're going to aim over here for that mountainous looking region, which I'm sure has got to be flat. There's got to be a valley on there somewhere. That says tundra. And I don't have a ladder. Curse you. Curse you. Okay, wait, never mind. It says grasslands now. Alright, I've already got grassland science. So, while we're flying, I will venture onto Elifonio, and using the powers of the internet, so let's see. Oh, oops. Wait a minute. What? Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. I messed up. That was my fault. I looked up K, not M. So yeah, we're actually doing a little bit over Mach 1 now, which is cool. I mean, it's nice this thing is, because Mach 1 is 2.94 kilometers per second, and since we're in meters, well, move the decimal point over. So it's 293 meters per second. Okay. So yeah, we're doing a little bit over Mach 1, which is nice. I mean, it's nice that this thing can handle so well at that speed, you know? Ooh, those wings are a little bit flappy, in my opinion. Alright, so we'll throttle back to about half, because I need to bring this thing in for a nice, soft, gentle landing. We're going to move out those landing gears, I think. So we're going to take these landing gears back here and, like, shift them off to the side a little bit, maybe underneath the wings. We'll see. So, but it still won't get into space. Well, it doesn't seem to have a power problem, it just seems to have a fuel problem. So I'm thinking what I'll do, which is going to be terrible, like literally very, very terrible, is I will take and put... I'll probably... man, you know what? I think I'll probably just take two of the big tanks here. Just use two of those. That should be well more than enough fuel. Because these two jet engines are powerful enough to get this thing in the air. Then once I move the landing gears around, it should actually take off fairly nicely. Oh, choices, choices, choices. Oh wait, that's right. I mean to say decisions, decisions. I'll show you how this works. Isn't that cool? Since there's a good chance you're probably not going to see that in this video. So that's two flights, two failed attempts. We've made some adjustments. We're going to need to make some more tweaks. I will do one last thing in this video, though, aside from landing this thing. But for that, I'll just revert flight once everything's all said and done. And if you're wondering why I'm planning on landing this thing rather than doing it like I normally do and just reverting the flight, it's because when I recover the vessel, I will be slightly closer to daytime. And don't get me wrong, I know how much you guys appreciate seeing those moon rises, but I'm sure at this point you've been through it for 2 videos now, so you really are, you know, getting less and less impressed the more you see it. So we'll kick back to a 1/4 throttle, or well, 3/4 throttle. We are 4,000 meters above the surface, 42,000 meters above the water. Impact time is 23 seconds. Which is fine, because that's going to change the moment I... Ooh! See? Flat terrain. Over here. When in doubt, land on grass. So we're about 1,000 meters up, give or take. Not really quite time to deploy the landing gear, but you know what? We'll go ahead and do it anyway. Bill's like, look, I'm landing this thing one way or another, so gear down. Gear down. Alright. And if you're wondering why I'm still aiming towards the ground even at 800 meters, it's because I plan on doing this. Actually, that's not bad at all, man. I mean, dude, we're doing 47, and this thing still has the ability to climb up. I mean, look at that. It's holding steady. It's just now starting to drop. 37 meters per second. So, yeah, this thing could easily get off the ground if the landing gears were pointed the right way. So, I'm going to move the landing gears around a little bit. We're going plenty slow enough to make a safe landing. Because I think these gears are rated at like 60 miles an hour or 60 meters per second. Ah! Oh, curse you, American measuring system. And now we watch as the graceful condor glides in silently and smoothly upon the grassy plains. Oh, come on. Wow, this is a really long 8 seconds. Look at that. Okay, so, 8.5 seconds, right? That's longer than 0.1 of a second. That's a lot longer than 0.1. That's like 1 second. Oh. Come on, Bill. You can do it. Wouldn't that be weird if I hit the brakes on the wheels and, like, I actually slowed down? Wow. That is impressive. And a little bit concerning. Okay. Let's say you better drop. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, this thing is doing 31 meters a second, and it's barely falling at all. That is a very good glide ratio. I mean, that is a very, very good glide ratio. I mean, it's moving across the ground at 28 meters a second, and it's dropping at like 2 meters a second. So, I mean, yeah, wow. So many voices. So, we either A, need to refine this idea some more, or B, collect some more science so we can collect some more parts so we can do other stuff and generally improve this idea. Sorry about that. Had to go radio silent because a lot of people were talking right next to my door, very loudly. You know, I, words fail me. Oh, really cool. My brother got the game. You probably see that right there, like that little pop-up message. If not, well, then ignore what I'm saying. I'll have to check this video. Oh, I can't believe it. Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. Wow! This thing just refuses to touch down. Bill, what are you doing? Okay, come on. We seriously need to get this thing to the ground now. This has been the longest 8 seconds ever. And break, 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 break. Oh, Bill. Thank you. Finally. Ooh, really? That's nice. They give me 1.5 science for that. Okay, so given the fact that this thing has such a impressive glide ratio, I'm thinking these need to be out here. Nope. There we go. And maybe back a little bit more. Okay. So this is the last test we're going to run with this thing. Then I'm just going to revert flight, because I believe what should happen here... So you'll notice when this thing loads... So you see how it's kind of even just a tiny little bit angled upwards. So shut that off. Activate. Jet engines on. So let's see how long this thing takes to get off the runway. Now that it's slightly angled upwards. And it still seems to want to take the whole runway. Come on. Come on. Okay, so not the whole runway, but, you know, a good chunk of it. So what you want to see now, before I revert this flight for the final time and leave the game, is how fast this thing can actually go. Right? I mean, you saw it. It was doing a little over Mach 1. So, you know, how fast is too fast for the plane that could? So what we're going to do is we're going to get up to about 5,000 meters. Yeah, about 5,000. I think I might take it up to 10,000 meters. Just because I have a sneaking suspicion something is going to go horribly, horribly wrong. But it's okay. I'm reverting the flight anyway, so So engines are at max. The jet engine is pumping away. That's, I believe, 300 or 400 pounds of thrust. Something like that. I don't remember how big those engines are. Thrust 135 and slowly dropping. So yeah, about a little over 200 pounds of thrust. Right, about 260 pounds of thrust. But of course, it's dropping because of the air intakes. So, all right. So we'll even this thing out. And now that we're at a sufficiently high enough altitude, we'll let this thing pick up speed, get going about as fast as those jet engines will carry us. And you're wondering what I'm going to do, some of you. Others of you are just sitting there, jaws wide open, waiting for this number right here to stop moving long enough for me to go, hey, wait, that's as fast as it'll go. Oh yeah, I didn't shut those jet engines off. I actually did that on purpose. Wow, really? 370? Come on. Man, I can't even get Mach effects on this thing. I think you gotta be doing like Mach 2 in order to get the Mach effects to show up. Either that or it's just too dark for you guys to see them. What is our fuel looking like? Speed's climbing. So I'm trying to get the Mach effects to show up for you guys. And you gotta be at least like, you've gotta be under, I think 20,000 in order to do it. Oh yes, speed is really climbing. Come on. Show me that glint. Man, those jet engines are not liking this one bit. When that rocket engine runs out, those jet engines are going to smack into a wall. Watch. Watch my speed just like plummet. Oh, come on. Come on. There's the Mach effects. Yes! Wow, you've really got to be doing like 500. I got a faint little puff of Mach effect. Look at that. And there goes my speed. So let's see what this thing will do in return. Yeah! Yep, that's right. I saved it. Like I said, you always bring Bill. So, alright guys. I'm going to call it quits for today. I've had enough interruptions and distractions. So, revert flight back to the hangar. It still won't get into space, so we'll explore why that is in the next episode. And to that, guys, I'm gonna have to say, sayonara.